Hello and welcome to the Hero Spouse. I am Kenda Ruth, here to answer your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Sorry I'm a few minutes late, unless you are still on my old calendar where you think I'm early. But I am changing the start time to 2:30 from 3 o'clock, and I haven't gone through all of my emails to get that changed because there's probably 20 emails that say that. So that'll take some time. And I did get my printer working at the very last second. I didn't think it was going to work. So we are going to get started. So let's start with our usual business. I'm going live in 3 places. I am going live in a Facebook group and a Facebook business page and on YouTube. The Facebook business page, your comments are not private. In fact, your friends might even get notifications when you make comments. But in the Facebook group, your comments are private. Only people who are members of the group can see those comments. So I am going to go and post in the comments section on each of those Facebook pages which one you are in. So if you're not sure where you are, you will know where you are. So hold on a minute. And along with that, I will be posting the link to enroll in my free course, Understanding Midlife Crisis, if you have not already done that. I recommend that. It's what I created to help you get through the emotional whys at the beginning so that you can just get a few of your questions answered so that you can move forward to the more important piece of what you need to do, and that's healing. But I know that healing was very difficult for me when I was just cycling through this doesn't make sense. He's insane and I need to know why. Why? And he won't tell you. So that was my point for it. So hold on, and I can see that I am coming through on the business page. Okay, comment put in there. Okay, and now to the private group. You finally caught up with me? Okay, here we go. And everything looks good. So we actually don't have that many questions today. We have 5. So if you want to ask questions in the comments, I will probably have a little bit more time to do that. In fact, a couple of these questions look like they might be pretty quick. So let's see what we get through. Our first question, we have an anonymous female left behind spouse. Her bomb drop was 2018, October, and date of marriage is 2014. She has a clinging boomerang and a high energy replayer. She says, I don't know how to move forward. I worry that I set too many limits when he came into acceptance a few months ago. She says, seemed hurt and controlling at times. I don't know if you mean he seemed hurt and controlling or you did. He's now planning routes with a new alienator he met then while trying to work things out with you. Okay, so I want to tell you he was not in acceptance. Just right there. He's trying to cake eat. Okay. I think he hit acceptance in fall of 2020 or 2021. He wanted to work things out both times, and he cycled backwards into the alienator. September of 2021 and onward, I was cautious, slow, I set limits, declined half his advances, including one where hinted, and now I don't know if you meant he or I, hinted about commitment because kept clamming up about it and was still talking to the because he kept climbing up and talking to the alienator. About 4 months ago, he met a new alienator, is now planning routes with her. Doing our meaningful things and stopping unhealthy vices that he started in 2020 when I started setting limits on the alienator. He wanted couples therapy right after he met the new alienator and is finally taking action to heal. He said she's like me, she's moving here and they'll likely live together. Mostly he denies it's romantic, which is I love how they're like, she's like you, he probably hasn't told you he's gonna live, you know that they'll live together, but she's moving here. It's obviously romantic, and are they idiots? I mean, the answer is yes, but just on some of these obvious things, they don't get how obvious that is. So, okay, denies it's romantic when it clearly is. We're back home after 6 months of living apart because he felt he still had, because felt, I think you mean I felt, he still had an alienator. So, does this mean that he is living at home now? That's what when you say we're back home after 6 months apart, it seems like it. But you also say he's gone back to this or started up with another alienator. He seems committed in ways and he hasn't since bomb drop. He's been in midlife crisis for 8 to 9 years. Okay, so the first thing is we're looking at if he's been in midlife crisis for 8 to 9 years and you've been married for 8 years. Well, you've been married for 7, not quite 7.5 years, it looks like. So what you're saying is he's been in MLC longer than you've been married. And I don't know how long you were together before married. If you were together and cohabiting for 15 years prior to that, it's just same old. It's just part of the marriage because you were living as married before that. But if your relationship was very new then, you may have gotten yourself involved with somebody who was in midlife crisis, not knowing it. And that could mean you don't even know who the actual person is because you met the person that was now having his psychic breakdown and a little bit crazy. But if there was a limerence there, it just seemed amazing and wonderful. So that's one thing I'm going to start out with is we just don't know if that's the case. Next, he's not in acceptance. If he keeps cycling, he's cycling too much. Now, acceptance is what I call reintegration. Jim Conway calls it acceptance. And he has a withdrawal phase before that. And I really don't know what he means by that. I use the phases that are used by Murray Stein in his book, In Midlife. And he uses, I'm trying to think of words that I know, the obvious, but Mircea Eliade is a social scientist studying mythologies and, words are not not there. Anthropologist, probably, if he is. I don't know that that's his background. But he has 3 steps toward transition, let's say. And that would be, hold on a sec. We get to your entry into it, and this is our separation. Then you have rebirth and reintegration. Those are your 3 basic stages. And I take those 3 and I put what most of you call replay, because that's what Jim Conway called it, into there under separation. But I say that's called escape and avoid. And then I say replay is a type of escape and avoider. And then I have low energy wallow. High energy replay, low energy wallow is a different type of escape and avoider. And so I take the replay, what's called the replay stage, and I fit it as a piece or a sub stage, if you would, under separation. So you separate from the tribe. Then there's the reintegration. You reintegrate to the tribe. And then, you separate, then you have a rebirth and you reintegrate. Now under separation, or sometimes I think he has separation, liminality, and rebirth, reintegration. But I know there's 3. And so I don't know. I put rebirth as like this minor little thing. And this is what I think Jim Conway, I'm confusing everyone because it can be very confusing. I'm not sure if this is what Jim Conway meant with when he talked about withdrawal. I never understood. Liminality, what I call liminality, Jim Conway called depression. So you have replay, then depression, then withdrawal for Jim Conway, and then acceptance. Reintegration is that final acceptance piece, but this rebirth, I think of rebirth as a bridge. So I want you to put a bridge from liminality, and that is a depressive state, to reintegration. There's a bridge, and they go back and forth across this bridge because it is the revising and editing. I am reborn into a new person. Now I have to reintegrate this new me into society. And so I take it out for a test into new society, and I'm like, oh no, that didn't work. Oh, that was not good. Oh, walk back over the bridge and make some changes. go back again. So there is this back and forth. We might think of it as cycling if we see some things, but this is just the correcting and testing of the new person. Just like when you may have been a teenager and you intentionally went out and tested this new, okay, I'm going to try and go wild and go punk. And, oh, but I don't want to go punk in front of my friends who will laugh at me. I'll go punk when I'm on vacation. I don't know. I was very reserved, very straightforward, so I would test out outfits at my dad's house. And I wouldn't have had the nerve to wear them anywhere in my own hometown. I felt I would have been a laughingstock. But with my dad's house, I knew I could just test them. For one thing, we hardly ever went out of the house. But if we did, I still had the courage to do it because we lived an hour away. And I also liked shocking my stepmother because that was half the fun, and my mom knew it, and she'd laugh along with me. But I would not have had that nerve. So this was like, as a teenager, you're constantly going through a rebirth and integrating yourself, and rebirth and integrating yourself. And remember about midlife crisis, it is this regression often to 17. That is what it seems to me, as 17 seems that ideal number. But he is not there. He is not at acceptance if he is still confused with an alienator. Now, I am not saying that an MLCer, you could have somebody who goes through MLC and stays with the alienator and they can come through it and out of it. I'm not saying that's how it usually works and it's common. I know that Heart's Blessing had said that she believed as a litmus test. I'm using the word litmus test, but that the way it sounded to me, that if there was an alienator, it meant replay. I'm not quite there. I think that's probably typical and most likely. But they could have a new relationship and it could work. Now, that is way against the odds. But what if they went through a few relationships and then they found one that worked? Or what if there really was no spouse standing for them anymore? Someday they're going to find a new relationship. And it could be that they pull through that relationship even though they're in a midlife crisis when they meet the person. So I don't buy into they have to be in replay if they still have an alienator. But with this one, he's still cycling through alienators. It sounds like he keeps going back to her. He can't make a decision about it. He's trying. But just because they're trying doesn't mean they're at acceptance. We're going to see phases of the stages as they go through this. You're going to be in replay and they're going to have, I call them vacations, or they pop up out of the tunnel for a breath of air. And so they're going to seem normal for a while. They're going to seem like they're reconnecting. They are reconnecting, but it's not taking it along to the next phase. So I don't want you to think, we almost always, all of us, put our spouses ahead of where they really are. I was doing it constantly during Chuck's MLC because, well, it seems like he's accepting things. It seems like he has a lot of insight or this. No, those were just moments of clarity. And a moment often is a moment, but sometimes it's weeks and months. But they're not ready yet. And those are great periods. But I want you to approach those periods not as, oh, this is over, and now setting your expectations at that higher level. I want you to still think, I can't tell if this is acceptance because I'm seeing acceptance, or if this is a cycle where he's getting better for a while, but it's not really in there. There's also, at the end of MLC, you might go in reintegration. There is what we talk about as this, I think of it as, trying to find a good metaphor, but we're on the train, and the train is going to go through some little towns. Now, think of this. The train went through escape and avoid. The train went through liminality, and now it goes across the little bridge and into reintegration. And then it's going, and maybe this is where the rebirth happens. I mean, remember, it's all metaphors. So we're just trying to find ways to explain it so we can explain it as they go back across a bridge. And this came from Heart's Blessing also, as she described it. They have to return to the other stages to shut the doors. So the way I describe that is, instead of it being a return to the original liminality where you have the same timeline, hey, we went back and now it takes the same time to get out. No. Imagine now next in reverse order, because what's after? If you just came from liminality, if you turn around and go back, you go back to liminality. You don't skip it. So there's a little mini town kind like new liminality, like New York and New Amsterdam in reintegration. Then after that, there's a little mini town new escape and avoid. And they're going to spend a little bit of time in those, to deal with things. And then they come through them. Because I want you to think when you see this, oftentimes at the end, you've had this wonderful reconnection and you thought you were rebuilding. And then it seems like midlife crisis hits again. They seem like they're in liminality again. They seem like they're in escape and avoid again. And I thought we were through this. What's happening? I can't do this again. It's very confusing. So I tell you this to know, so you know that it's normal. This is often part of the process of a midlife crisis. This mini piece of those so that they can close the doors on the pieces that they were reintegrating from those phases. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening here. I'm just saying he's cycling. Okay. He is still very confused with an alienator. And this could be a return. I'm not saying that's what it is because, yeah, let's see. 2018. So you're a little over 3 years in. It could be that sort of thing. But it could just be he's still in escape and avoid, and he cycles and he cycles and he cycles. He's a clinging boomerang. So it's especially true with clinging boomerangs that we think they're ahead of where they are, because you guys with clinging boomerangs get a lot of cookie crumbs. I love you. I want to come home. I'm confused, and they are being nice. We're getting all this positive feedback while we're getting the confused and mixed messages. And so we think that we're ahead of the game. It doesn't mean we're ahead of the game. That's just how clinging boomerangs work. So I have probably confused you a lot more than I meant to. But when you look at these things and you try and place them on the stages roadmap, you get confused. My recommendation is don't think of this in the stages. Those of us who do this I think we regret that there are stages and we feel we have to have them. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because when we talk about them, people get mired in them and you get stuck in them and you start to, where are they on this map? And you focus on that instead of focusing, not just on your self-focus. Yes, I want you to do all that, but instead of looking at the map, just look at them and say, okay, they're cycling. Don't know what that is, but they're cycling, and this is just a part of MLC. Regardless of where I could stick a pin in it on a map. This is just, okay, I've done this before. He's cycling. I've done this before. I know what I'm supposed to do. Chuck came and left 8 times. By the end, I was like, I know what I'm supposed to do when he leaves. I be grace. I am not to be afraid about it. All of those things. Okay, I'm going to look at the comments for a moment, and we can see. It's funny how they think we're so stupid or oblivious. Oh, yeah, I know what you're you'll probably say my husband is probably cake eating, and I'm struggling to detach and move forward while stuck in this limbo. Hold on, I have to click see more. I know what I have to do. Focus on the kids, yes. Live my best life, yes. I know all, but when he comes around, he acts like we're together. Everything is normal. I tried to get a life, that's G-A-L, gal, but having no expectations feels impossible when he comes and goes as he pleases. I don't want to fight, but I feel like I need to set a clear boundary with him. Okay, that was when you said comes and goes as he pleases, that the word boundary was right there. So yes, no coming over when he pleases, dinners, hanging out, cuddling on the couch, sex. Yeah, especially on the sex thing, darn. He denies the alienator who he practically lives with. Their relationship is toxic, vicious, fights, and breaking up a lot. He says she's unstable, so he still has to be in contact with her. Sorry. I'm sorry. I had to laugh at that. Okay. I would say she's unstable, so that's why I have to not be in contact with her. He's probably worried that she's going to do something. And so he's like, I'm so worried I have to be there to fix her. Okay. I'm sorry. He says he wants to save our marriage, but then nothing changes. And if he's in a midlife crisis, that's not going to change, other than that it's constantly moving forward in this tunnel, but this tunnel that can be years long. How do I have the conversation without the argument? First thing, you have the conversation whether there's an argument or not. So that's being conflict avoidant. And sure, we all want to avoid an argument, but you also have to accept that sometimes you're not going to avoid an argument. Now, the next thing is, how do you do it without the argument? You don't participate in the argument. Let him argue. And you're like, this is what, this is a boundary I'm setting. We're not negotiating this because this is my life. This is like saying, a person's not allowed to touch me. Well, let's negotiate about that on your first date. Really? No, it's not a negotiation. So we're talking about access to your home where you live and he doesn't. That should be non-negotiable. Or in other words, you get to choose and you have a line item veto on it. Now you can ask for his input, but you get to make the final decisions about it. And so you want to feel maybe you can let him give some input and feel like he isn't being controlled about it, but at the same time saying, but this is my home, and yes, I want you to live here with me, but you don't, and right now you're not being appropriate. You and I both know, that you're trying to have the best of two worlds, and it's not going to work that way, and it's not fair to me, it's not fair to her, it's not fair to you, it's not fair to the kids if there are kids. And you say it very calmly. And you might not like this, and that's just too bad because it's about my life. I'm not doing this to cut you off, to control you, because I'm mad at you. I'm doing this because this is what I need to get healthy. And I am going to put myself first. That doesn't mean you aren't first, but you need to be first for you. Each person has to put themselves first. So yeah, you want to be selfish? Go ahead and be selfish for yourself. But I'm not going to allow other people's selfishism, I don't know what's the word, selfishness to be destructive to me. Selfishness is fine if it's not destructive to others. But that's the problem people have with selfishness, or when we say we're self-centered. Could self-centered instead mean balanced? I am well balanced. I'm centered in myself. But we mean it often to say, I put myself at the center of the universe and the most important. And we need to be most important in the sense of we need to do self-care. Let me see, there's a little bit more. Bomb Drop was January 2021. He's a clinging boomerang, yeah, and a high energy replayer. I want to be the lighthouse, but at the moment I am pretending it doesn't bother me and want it to move forward. And it really does bother me. I think you said it really not bother me, but I think it does. So you don't pretend. You have a conversation with him, but with this conversation, and you can have these conversations usually with clinging boomerangs. You probably don't even need to have this conversation with somebody who's not a clinging boomerang. You might need to have some bits of the conversation with a regular boomerang, but it won't go as well because they don't have the emotional, I want to say connection, but clinginess to you. And you start and end with positive. Start and end with reassurances. I'm not doing this because I'm mad at you, or I'm not doing this because I'm punishing you. And praises. I want our marriage to work. I believe our marriage can work. But it's not going to work if we do this. It's not going to work if I let you continue to use our house like a revolving door. It's not going to work if I don't heal. So you set the boundary within there, the thing that they're not going to like. Then you end, if you can get to the ending, because they might come in and storm in and monster. They might not. If you get to the ending, you do the reassurance at the end as well. So they're bookended with reassurances, and those reassurances could be praises. They could also be I'm not doing this to hurt you. I don't even like to hurt you. I'm not doing this because I'm mad at you. This is about me. And it could be protecting my heart. But this is what needs to be done. This is what I know this needs to be done. If our marriage is going to be saved, then I need to heal. You need to figure yourself out. And some of that stuff, we can't do it together because we're getting in each other's way. And when you come over all the time, it is so hard for me because I love seeing you and I want to see you. And it feels good because it gives me this hope. But unfortunately, it just prolongs it because it doesn't put you in a place where you have to make the changes and the transformations and the choices because you're being allowed to have both worlds. It's what is that saying? Why pay for it when you can get it for free? But I was thinking of what the kitty said. I can't remember who wants the titty when you get the milk for free? But that's not how the phrase goes. But I thought it might sound a little crass too. But why pay for it when you get it for free? And right now, he doesn't have to do any of the work to get his you time. Okay. And so that you got to find a way. And yes, when you do this conversation, you might get upset. And if you get upset, it happens. And if you don't, you're going to speak in this calming voice and you're going to keep yourself measured. And if you go off, you'll have another chance. He's a clinging boomerang. And if you go off, it also is going to show him that it does bother you. Oh, you are emotional sometimes. You are a real person. And they're mad at you and they're secretly relieved. They're also relieved because we show how we care by how emotional we get, or that's what they want to say. Or really, we could be showing we're caring if we're healthy with our responsiveness rather than our reactiveness. But reactiveness and the level of our reactiveness, the more mad you are, the more I know you love me. Because why would you be so mad? It shows you care. So if you do go off, it's not always a bad thing. They'll tell you it's a bad thing. This is why I'm leaving you now. And you will think you messed up. Unless you remember back to this and you say, okay. Well, and you just say, well, you know what? I'm sorry. You're right. I overreacted. I should not have done that. I was being reactive. But maybe now you know that I am bothered by this. Okay? Try that. That means there's a lot of work you have to do with script writing to figure out what to say in this. Like writing come up with some different reassurances and then how to set a boundary and what boundary specifically that means. You might want to just say with, no house access without first notifying me. And what that means is, here's the other thing. Some people think, I notified you so I can just come over. No, it's you're requesting. That means there's a yes or a no answer that comes with it. So you may need to put that as well. I can say no to it. That doesn't mean I'll always say no, but I'm not going to say yes if it is out of not convenient for me. Okay, I'm going to read the next one and then I'll come back to the next comment. Oh, wow. Good. I'm glad I used up some time since we didn't have that many questions today. Okay. So we have Wendy. Wendy's bomb drop. Now, Wendy, you've said your bomb drop was June of 2020, and then lately you've been saying 2021. Clinging boomerang and a high energy replayer. And I'm wondering if you discovered or overheard him talking to the OW, to the alienator, in September of 2021. And is that why you were thinking bomb drop was, I think you said June or August, but I wonder if that's why you changed it to 2021, when in several other questions you'd said 2020. Because you were consistent with 2021 for the last few times you've submitted, but you were consistent with 2020 for several others. And almost the same dates. So that's what I'm not sure of. Okay, let's talk. He's been coming around. He calls every day, multiple times a day. We've been spending every weekend with each other, going out with old friends and enjoying our time. He booked a trip to Las Vegas for him and I with friends going at the end of March for 5 days. The end of March, and so in 6 weeks about. I'm excited that he's planning future things with me, but am hesitant and scared because that's a long time for there to be a lot of cycles that happen between then and now. He and the alienator have broken up 3 times, and it says for 2 months now. So does it mean 3 times across the last 2 months? In 8 weeks, they've broken up 3 times, maybe? He does still have her on his social media, but claims they aren't contacting each other. That can be true, but it's a backup plan, isn't it? When he isn't on the road with his job, he's very determined that we spend time together. He keeps talking about us in the future. He has admitted the guilt of what he did to me and his family is bothering him. Okay, I like that he, not just to you. How do I handle all of this? Take one day at a time and move forward to building a new relationship. Yeah, you take one day at a time, okay? Because what happens if you move back to where we were with question number 1, where we were talking, oh, he's an acceptance, she said, but I said, no, this is an acceptance. So if he continues to go back to alienator, and if it gets to be different alienators, it's very hard. You can get toward, and the alienator can still pull them back because that emotional blackmail is so strong. But they are moving forward. He's doing some of the good things. The talking about us in the future, I like that. but we see it in cycles, okay? But admitting the guilt, I saw that all the time, but it changed when he was starting to get closer. When I knew, okay, this is it. This one's going to be it. It's the one that really meant something to me here was he's admitted the guilt of what he did to me, and family is bothering him. So has he had talked to you, other people, about it? He doesn't have to, but if he had done that, that's what I'm wondering. It sounded like I want to know what he thinks of where you're going. I want to know if he thinks there's a timeline. Those are some of the questions I would have with him. And you have to be careful because you can start asking these questions and they get scared, or they don't. But how are you going to know whether they are scared or not if you don't ask? This is why I'm not against relationship discussions. You have to have them someday, right? And especially at this point. So when you do it, you still, again, as I talked about, you start out with a bookending of, I'm not trying to pressure you, but I really just, I'd like to see where you think we are at right now and where you feel we're going. Not just where you feel we're going, but where do you want us to be going in our relationship? What are your goals for that? And then you're going to watch it and know where to go the next direction. Think of it as a choose your own adventure. If he answers one way, if he backs off and he starts to withdraw right then, or gets defensive or scared, to change your tactic and you take the other adventure. But then you could go into your relationship discussion if he seems receptive. And it seems like he is being receptive right now, but you be prepared for him not to be as well. That doesn't mean, it sounds like typically right now the expectation is that he's usually going toward the receptivity. But we just don't know when that can happen, or something could happen, or he could have a communication with the alienator and it can all go downhill from there. Things are going well, they're saying all the right things, and bam, changes. And I want you to not put in the expectations. I agree with you about the Las Vegas trip, that I would do the same thing you're doing. I would do the trip, or at least be planning the trip, and I would be so excited, absolutely freaked out, scared, and nervous because I really don't know where we're going to be in that time because of how things keep changing. So it's really good that you just understand that. And that's what I'm glad you're doing, is that you're understanding, okay, we have this trip planned. It is with friends. And there's a chance you might have to back out of it. And I just want you to go in there. It's not expect anything. It's prepare for all scenarios. You move forward one day at a time. He's going to make it, given the trajectory of what has been going on in your relationship and the situation. So we're just looking at it as a trajectory or a vector, and it's been pointing in the direction toward reconciliation. It's not there yet in where I want you to treat it as an expectation where he feels there's expectations from him, or too much of expectations from him. I want there to be reassurances that I'm not trying to pressure you. And I don't want him to feel your hope too much. Be excited about going on a trip, but not the hope of a burden that is on him, that he has to meet these expectations of who he is, and that I just can't be who you want me to be. That's going to scare him back. Right now, basically, keep up with your detachment work. Keep up with your detachment projects. Okay? And work on that one day at a time, like you said. Okay. That was number 2, and now I'm going to move over to the comments, and I'm going to check the comments on the other page too. I don't usually get many on there since it's the public page, but nope, nothing there. Okay, so I'm going to read you 2. I'm going to read your first comment and then your second one. Okay, mine is also a clinging boomerang. Bomb drop was 2018. While I lived, where I live, polygamy is legal, and 2 weeks ago he got married to the alienator. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the alienator's 3rd marriage. Even though he's now married to her, I haven't changed the way I look at his relationship with the alienator. He's 50 in a few months, and our oldest is 23. Polygamy is not usually practiced in midlife in this country. The way he also went about this relationship was by putting me down and finding faults in our marriage. We've been married for 24 years. The alienator has not been accepted by his family, particularly the ladies. He's trying to force me and the rest of his family to accept and make friends with the alienator. I'm struggling at the moment because he talks about her when he comes over. He told me that he wants one big family, not two parallel lives. So basically is, how do you handle this? I wish I had an answer. I am trying to think. There's at least one person from the forum that I would recommend you talk to, and I might look her up, and because from your description, you're not her. I'm thinking, unless I'm wrong, but and that's what I would do to get some, maybe to get some a community of others that would understand what it is with the polygamy issue, because that is a completely different thing that most of us aren't going to have, and it sounds like it isn't something that from just it sounds like that you had wanted in your marriage. If that's something that you were agreeing to, that's a completely different thing, isn't it? She hasn't been accepted by his family. She's had multiple marriages. Has she been the second or third, fourth wife in her other marriages? What has ended those marriages? So those are some of the questions I would have. So I want you to think about, what are the odds of this marriage then working out as well? And what is it that you're standing for? What are you willing to do if he stays married to her? Is that a hard line in the sand? And what are you going to give that? And how long has it been going on, the midlife crisis? Bomb drop was 2018. Okay, got it. And no, I wouldn't change the way you look at his relationship with her. She's still an alienator. Or she is still an illegitimate relationship in my mind. Because first, you can have something that is legal in a country, but it's about the agreement in the marriage. What was your marriage agreement? And the only thing that you might have not in your favor is you might not have discussed it. And so there might have been an assumption, or an unspoken assumption when you first got married. Of course, I'd never marry anybody else along with you, but it's legal, and it's legal in our religion. So, it's just a moot point. We don't have to bring it up. And then they change. Well, I changed, and I'm allowed to do that. And you took these vows. So it might not have been a statement in your vows. And if you're going on a strictly legal basis, because there's adultery, say, and adultery is a biblical term. And so it has specific, we talk about it as, well, they cheated on me. It's adultery. But that doesn't mean it's adultery in the strict sense. So is he committing adultery? Maybe not. Is it infidelity, though? Infidelity is about an agreement between two couples. So if you are swingers or have an open marriage and you have an agreement, forget my opinion on that. It's not my business. I might think, okay, that's dangerous. Who cares what I think? If the two of you have these agreements and boundaries set on how you do this, and they break through those boundaries and don't follow them, that's the infidelity. That's the betrayal. He had promised both me and my father that he would not practice polygamy. Yeah, then that's a betrayal. And I don't know if the alienator, because I don't have the information, is an alienating force herself, or is she just another person who believes in polygamy and thought this was going to be okay, or feels like it should and doesn't get it, or is she really somebody who's trying to steal? I see. So that makes it really foreign for you. Yeah, I want to. It's been a few years since she might post all the time, but on the forum, I'll see if I can find who it was. And you might want to go over to the forum if you're not there and check her out. Okay, so I'll go try and look up names and see if I can recall who that was. I'm not sure that she's still there, but if she is, or if she's listening here, you might want to hook up together. Okay, I am going to move forward with question number 3 from the list, which would put us at, I think that puts us at the 5th one I've answered right here. Okay, and we have 15 minutes. So we have Mary. Mary's bomb drop was probably not 1961. Okay, so I'm going to think maybe you mean 2021, because date of marriage is 1985. Mary has a vanisher and a high energy replayer. She asks, when the MLCer wakes up, does he apologize and show remorse for his past actions? Who knows? And the reason I say that, you'll usually get that with a clinging boomerang, although you're welcome. When you have a clinging boomerang, you might get the apologies at the beginning and the middle and the end and every other week. You might not, but you might. They're cycling through all of that because of their the way they're handling their guilt and their neediness for you. If you have a vanisher, you might not ever hear from them. Maybe, let's say they start doing the 12th step and they get to, is it step 9 where you make amends? They get to the make amends step and you just might be on their list. Now that would be nice that they did that, but the only reason they might have been doing it is because you're on the list. I need to make amends to my ex-spouse. So does that mean they're showing remorse? It might not. It might mean they're trying to understand to feel the remorse. It's how they wake up. It's who they're with when they wake up. Are they still in a relationship? Has that relationship with the alienator progressed? It's what they've lost. It's how you handled it. It's their levels of narcissism. And by narcissism at this point, I mean narcissism that how high of a narcissist are they not when not an MLC? How much of that is just part of who they are? Because MLCers, they're like, temporary narcissists. And by narcissists, I mean many of them will hit all of the boxes on an NPD scale, even though they're not NPD, because the boxes they don't hit are important. That's they haven't been this way since they were 20 or younger even. But they're this way now, but they haven't always. That's important. But how many of those boxes had they always been hitting? So I think if they're higher on the level of scale, you're less likely to see remorse and an apology. Where are you in their lives? If they're a vanisher, work on smart contact. Work on being thriving. All of these things that are an attractive force for other people. What is an attractive force? We might call it charisma. We might not always call it charisma because we have many narcissists who are very charismatic. But there it is. I want some of that. That person has their life together. Life is falling apart, and yet she's doing okay. What is her secret? Somebody smiles. They're magnetic. They laugh. They look like they're having fun. They care enough about themselves and are not so desperate to please. That's about self-care. I take myself as an important person and I am enjoying life. And when I'm enjoying life, I want to share it with others. And that has this magnetic sense of attraction to others. And that's what you want to exude. And then when you do have your contact, smart contact or whatever with them, you exude it without expectation. Because if you really have an expectation and it's sensed, then it's the desperation, the neediness that comes through. You aren't really showing the magnetic attraction, the being an attractive force. So it needs to be authentic, but still smart contact. And let them see how great your life is. Just from a distance. You're going to your daughter's wedding, say, and you see each other. You might not even chat, but he sees you from across the room and you're talking to somebody else and you're laughing and having fun. And you're not even worried about him being there. And when he does come up and say hi, you greet him warmly. Maybe you even give him a hug and he's like, oh my God, so why would she be doing this to me? I was terrible to her. I felt I hated her. And you're not being hateful to him. You're not being a nag to him when he shows up. You're not being scornful. You're not being critical. And all of these things that he labeled you as, but you're not doing them. Maybe you never did them, or that wasn't your general demeanor. Maybe it was, but maybe it wasn't. And now he has to go back and figure out, I have this profile of this person in my head, and it doesn't match. What's going on? Has she changed? And maybe she has, and that's great. Or maybe my profile is wrong as well. Maybe there's something wrong with what I'm thinking. You have to do that without an expectation that they're going to do that because you let it go. That's detachment. And they might show remorse, they might not. Depends on who they are and how they come through the crisis. Okay, I'm going to read yours really quickly. I wasn't even sure if I should have the conversation that is helpful, and I will work on the script. Yeah, you should. I don't get mad, but I do get upset, and that's okay. We haven't talked about a relationship but you always cry when you do. So work on that. There's being emotional, and then there's showing that genuine tear without getting emotional. Like, this is really hard for me, but not, this is so hard for me. One's controlled. Usually he says there's no one else. He says, now, if you know there's somebody else, it doesn't mean you've had evidence that you could actually provide in court. It's just, we all know. It's, you don't let him get away with that. Now, you don't argue it, but you just say, you know what, that's a topic we don't need to discuss because you and I both know that there is. So we know, hey, you're still saying yes, because they're on the other side going, hey, there's not somebody. Hey, end of conversation, because we both know there is. And look, I'm still here. I'm still here talking to you, knowing that you have been having an affair. And you and I both know it's wrong. But it doesn't mean I've given up on you, because I know you're better than that, and so do you. You just get past the affair topic, because it's like, I don't have stupid or loser or whatever it is written across my forehead. It's obvious you're having an affair. And I know that maybe to you it's not obvious, or if you just think you can, if you just keep blustering and saying it's not, it'll eventually be true. That's what gaslighting does. Gaslighting is one of the techniques of gaslighting is, I'll just continue to repeat the lie that I know it's obvious that it's a lie. But if I repeat it, it will create doubt. Look at what politicians are doing with that. That's a standard technique. It's not new to the current political realm. It's a standard technique. Just repeat the lie enough, then at least some people will start to doubt it. Well, they're so certain about that. They've stuck to their lie. Who would do that? Well, because they're figuring in a situation where they don't only have to convince one person, they convince enough of the people, just even a small minority. That small minority then can start to have an effect on the others. So don't let him gaslight you. Say, no, that's not how it works. We both know this. And this isn't an agree to disagree. We don't have to, what is it they say? You can have opinions, but you can't choose your facts, or one of those phrases. We know that there's an affair going on. This isn't an opinion sort of thing. It's not like, oh, I think she's a nice girl. That's an opinion, whether she's nice or not, frankly. And then just for your information, you're telling him, I don't. I think her niceness is, that's not the kind of nice I want around my husband. Now, you might say that if you're being cute, because if you're doing that, you don't have to do that, but that kind of breaks the ice with a little bit of humor as well. And then you move on. Say, we're going to move on. Here's the topic that we're going to focus on, because we know about that. Now, it's just moved off the table. How can I, let's see. He usually says there's no one else. He says he just needs time to untangle from this unstable person and her family, who he is quite involved with as well. So he has said two things that are contradictory in the same phrase. There's no one else, but I have to untangle myself from the unstable person. If you're tangled with somebody, that's the someone else. And you can call him on that. This is the, where you admit it right there in front, but he's not even aware he's admitting it. So you can call him on that. Now notice how I'm doing it very calmly. Or just going point by point. And I say, and then he gets mad or upset because I've been caught, or, oh my, it's okay. You're calm. You're saying, I'm not trying to catch you. I'm not trying to trap you in this. But eventually, if you don't acknowledge, I'm going to use the word acknowledge right now and not admit. If you don't acknowledge this with me, we are not going to be able to move forward to where we want to go someday. We're not there yet. Okay? I'm not mad. And the reason I'm not mad, now I'm speaking to you, this isn't part of the script for him. The reason I'm not mad, though, the reason you're not mad is because you accept the process of a midlife crisis. And so you know that this is part of it. So now you're looking at your midlife crisis manual and like, okay, we're at this checkbox here. So I know this is going to happen. I don't like having expectations, but I do want you to know these are the possibilities. Whether they're probabilities or not, there's so many variations, but these are possibilities within midlife crisis. Okay, we got that checked, and here's how I should be responsive to it. Let's see. How can I gently call him out if he does this? It is true about the untangling. It is true and not true. I mean, it's his own emotions that he needs to be able to work through. It means if he can't get untangled from her, or he still needs to untangle, he's not ready. I don't want to say him telling you, because he doesn't know that's what he's doing, but it is. He's not ready. He's not ready to figure it out because he hasn't figured himself out. Why are his emotions tangled, attached? Remember that attachment is emotional entanglement. Why is he tangled with someone else? How can I gently call him out? You do that by just what I said above, where you're pointing out the someone else, this person. You said there's no one else, but then you said you're entangled with somebody. And then he might try to say, yeah, but it's not that kind of relationship. Obviously it is. And you can say, I know you don't get it, but obviously it is. Okay. When I've tried to set boundaries in the past, he says it's not like that he's not with her, so there is no need. How can I still be kind and reassuring, but let him know I am aware of what he's doing without accusing and getting the monster? So you're going to handle it like I did. And remember what I said, you might get monster. You just might. And you have to accept that you don't get to control his end of it. You can sit there and try and diffuse it, but you might not be successful at that. You have to still accept where he is, and accepting that he might be reactive and going to monster. So you know what? I can tell that this is really upsetting to you. And you don't even have to say, I didn't mean to upset you. That's his problem. Clearly you're not ready to face what you've done. And we can talk about it again. So, when you're ready, why don't you give me a call? Or something like that. Usually that's what I would do when I set a no contact boundary. And I'm not working with you on a no contact boundary at this point. I'm looking at this being I think we were talking about house access or different boundaries. Okay, I am going to see, since we're almost at the end, I'm going to move on and see what I can do with this next. See if I can get through these two or not. Maybe. Number 4. We have Deanne. Deanne's bomb drop was recent, September of 2021. Date of marriage is 1996. She thinks that she has a vanisher, but she's not familiar with the energy level terms. My MLCer says he doesn't know what he wants as far as staying married to me. Is he just afraid to say he's done? The torture's killing me. And this is why I said that we had some quick ones. No, he's not just afraid to say he's done. I mean, some of them, yeah, that could be, but then it's not so much a midlife crisis. Midlife crisis, he doesn't know what he wants. And that is why he's saying he really doesn't know. So the torture is killing you, is you have to get through that he's in the midlife crisis and the torture is killing him too. Okay? I don't want you to, force these things onto him, because then it is going to send him further away. He might not be a vanisher. If he doesn't know what he wants as far as staying married to you, you didn't say he doesn't know what he wants and then just leave it. You said as far as staying married to you. Then he doesn't know what he wants. He has to go figure it out. And your job is to work on you. I know you want to I'm going to meditate and not think about that. Oh, you're going to think about it constantly. I mean, let's face it. We all know that the torture is killing all of us. And so instead of that, I want you to do something else. I want you to not think about what it is he might or might not want. And I know just saying that isn't going to work. That's why I actually got hypnotherapy. Because how can I redirect my focus onto something? I really want you to work on getting a life. Work on things that you want to do with your life. I want you to work on yourself, your mirror work. That is self-healing and self-development, self-care. Focus on those. Laser focus. You got kids? Yes, you can dive into them, but you are first. And I have 5 young ones. I don't know how to make me first anymore, but I can say it. But you've got to do it. You have to become the most important person in your life. And you have to heal. And you have to be that attractive force so that when you do have contact with him, it's not going to work yet. Unless it takes years. But you're going to be smiling and you're going to be happy. And he's going to, look at that. And then he goes on his merry way. But then the next time, and the next time, and the next time. Okay? You're going to be consistently filled with joy. And it's not always going to work. And you're not always going to be filled with joy, but you're going to work toward that. Okay. Okay, I'm going to try really fast to go over this next one. This, at least ending at 3:30, I give myself a little bit of a cushion before I have to walk out the door to go to the bus. We have April. Her bomb drop was January of 2019. Date of marriage is 1997. She has a vanisher and a high energy replayer. Is it normal to go through full appearance changes as their new life falls apart? My husband has grown sorry, what our daughter calls effing bangs, 2 thin strips of hair down the side of his face. So sideburns, like, or mutton chops, and I laughed completely at this when I read it and was so relieved at this next piece. He's bald on top except a tiny patch at the very center front of his head. I can't stop laughing after this. I couldn't stop laughing after the son of a friend of ours saw this and told me. I was so relieved to hear that you couldn't stop laughing, because I was laughing so much and I was like, oh no, is that a bad? Am I being rude by laughing? Okay, no, I'm not being rude. It's the absurdity, isn't it? Yeah, it is normal. We really notice the appearance. Here's when we first notice the biggest appearance changes typically we notice are at the beginning. So bomb drop, and then there's this crazy person while they're in replay. And replay can last several years. We notice most at the beginning, but there's some that you'll notice 2 years later how they're acting and being. I just remember one from Divorce Busting. I think she met him on a plane, getting off the plane. He was in a different state and coming home, and I don't know why he was coming back at that day, but I think she described that he was wearing one of those fishnet type of shirts. And these things were popular, I think, in the 80s, and they were off the shoulder. Like beach bum kind of guy would wear this. And I don't know, she might have described him as having bleached hair. So Bryan Adams is looking for his hairdo. And he was dressing like a 17-year-old. But I mean, from probably his own days, or when he was 17, not 17-year-olds now. And it was so clear and obvious that just she saw him off the airport, and then you just kind of have to go, okay, just keep a straight face and hide yourself for a minute while you're walking to, okay, I'm working on my face, and then you put it on and you're like, hi, nice to see you. And yeah, it's normal. It really it is normal. They're not all going to be as insane. When I was working years ago, and I was commuting back and forth to Seattle, I got on the bus and I rode an express, but I was the last person off, the last stop before we got on the freeway. And one day I got on the bus and I often didn't get a seat, so I'd have to sit down, and I would sit in the space where wheelchairs would often go, because there weren't usually them, and so they flipped the seat up, and there was a guy. I think I was actually between the seats, and he was on the wheelchair seats, sitting, and his lap was right at my eye level because I'm sitting. And, I've got usually do some homework, and I got a book, and I turn and I look over, just not because I'm trying to check people out or anything, but there's this guy, and he's in shorts. He was not wearing underwear. I saw everything. It was way too much to see. But then I was like, oh my God. Look away. Please look away. But the other thing I'm like, I can't stand it. I have to look up and see the face that goes with that. The face that went with it might have been worse. Probably not. But it was a guy in his 40s. And at this point, I'm probably 31. Or probably 30. This was before bomb drop. A guy in his 40s with piercings all over. Now, so this guy was regressing, or I don't know if there was, he could have just been a weird person, but to present teenagehood, not his own teenage, is what I was taking from this. Piercings all over his face, and I don't know that he had tattoos, but it was just, I was like, oh my God, look away again. But that's what it made me think of, is the absurdity of this person and the look, and it was so clear that what was going on didn't match with the age. Now, sometimes we have to go with the hell with what other people think. And sometimes we realize, okay, we're just looking like we're trying to fit into something we're not. We are inauthentic. It's completely normal in midlife. They're still trying. They're going back again to what we were doing when we were a teenager, where we're trying to find our place and role and who we want to be. What persona do we really want to hold on to? What role do we want in life? They do that again at midlife. And much of with the crisis, it's a regression to figuring out, do I want to, I want to be young again. Can I be young again? Well, how does this feel? Do I look, they don't, and often if they're really crazy with it, they don't know they look like an idiot. Okay, we did get through all of them for today, and I will see everybody next week. Bye.